Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Math with Dr. War. We are in basic mathematics for the GED curriculum, and we're going to be looking at ordering fractions and decimals. Please remember that in the basic math section, this topic, you cannot use your calculator. Let's begin. The first question I have here is we're going to be ordering decimals. So we have some decimals here, and we have to order the numbers from greatest, meaning the biggest, to the least. So when you're ordering decimals, the first thing I do is I line them up by the decimal point, and that helps some people actually figure out like who's the biggest and who's the smallest. But before you do that, you can take a look at the numbers. Here, I notice I have 0.10. And then here, this is actually a whole number. This is 99,989. So this is actually your biggest number. Then we have 6.281, and then we have 9.0987. So I already know that 99,989 will be my first number. So for the decimals, what I'm going to do is I'm going to line them up by the decimal point. So I have my 0.10. I then have my 6.281. And then I have my 9.0987. Now, if you have missing spaces, you can fill them in by 0. Now, if you can actually look at decimals and order them, that is fine. But there's some people who can't do that. So for those who can't, I would suggest you line them up by their decimal points, and then we're going to start from the first place value here, which is the ones place, and then we're going to look for who's the biggest. So the best thing about the digits in the ones place is that they're all different. You have 0, 6, and 9. So who will be the biggest? The 9. So next in line would be 9.0987, followed by the 6, which is 6.281, followed by the 0.10. And you're finished. Now suppose you're given fractions. So it says here, which of the following fractions is greater than 8 over 17? Now when I look at my answer choices, I see I have 3 over 17, 6 over 17, 7 over 17, and 10 over 17. So I notice right away that all of them have the same denominator. This is a win. Whenever you have to compare fractions and the denominators are the same, all you have to do is compare the numerators. So we want a number that will be greater than 8. Okay, who is bigger than 8 here? It would be 10. So your answer would be 10 over 17. I know someone is going to say, but wait, Dr. War, what happens when the denominators are different? Don't worry, I have you. So I have another example here where it says, what is the order of the following set of numbers from greatest to least? So I notice I have a mixed number, 1 and 1/3. I have a proper fraction, 2/3. I have a negative proper fraction, -1 over 3. And then I have an improper fraction, 9 over 5. I really don't like working with mixed numbers, so I'm going to change this to an improper fraction. So to change a mixed number to improper, the whole number multiplies the denominator and then you add the numerator. 1 times 3 is 3 plus 1, so this is actually 4 over 3. So I'm going to write this down here. So we have 4 over 3, we have 2/3, we have -1 over 3, and we have 9 over 5. So looking here, because of the negative, I know that -1/3 will be my smallest number because it's negative. So I'm going to go in my answers and I'm going to eliminate A, because they have the -1/3 first, and also B. So my answer is either C or D. So I don't need this because I know where it's at. It's going to be my last fraction. Now the fractions I'm working with is 4 over 3, 2 over 3, and 9 over 5. Now when your denominators are different, you have to make equivalent fractions, which means we have to find our LCD, lowest common denominator. So who would be the lowest common denominator if you have 3 and 5? Now, the easiest way for some students, I tell them, like, if you're having issues, just multiply 3 and 5. Like, you don't have to multiply all of these. I mean, these two are the same, so you just need one of them. So 3 times 5 will be 15. So your LCD is 15. So 15 here, here, and here. Now, to make your equivalent fraction, you're like, okay, what would I have to multiply 3 by to make 15? That would be 5, which means that when you multiply 4 by 5, you get 20. Now, to make 3 15, I would have to times by 5. At the top as well, and 2 times 5 is 10. And then to make this 5 of 15, I would have to times by 3. And that gives me 27. So just as before, the denominators are the same. And remember, we are putting this in order from biggest to smallest. So I got 20, 10, and 27. So the biggest would be the 27. And the 27 was the 9/5. So 9/5 is first. And then after 27 is the 20. And your 20, which is the 4/3, is the actual 1 and 1/3. Which means 2/3 would be next. And remember, who was your last fraction? The negative 1/3. So your answer is D. So notice we got the 9/5. Both of them had that. And then once you figured out that the next one was the 20, which is the 4/3, and 4/3 was 1 and 1/3, you were done. You didn't even need to find the 2/3. Let's try it again. So in this problem, it says, in Javier's coin collection, 1/5 of the coins are pennies, 11/40 of the coins are nickels, and 1/4 of the coins are dimes. Which list correctly compares these portions of Xavier's coin collection? So he has a 1/5, he has 11/40, and he has 1/4. Now, if you read this, this is saying 1/4 is less than 1/5, and then 1/5 is less than 11/40. But to kind of figure out, if which one is in the correct order, again, we have to find the LCD. I always go for my greatest. Now, even though it says lowest common denominator, your LCD can't be the smallest number, so your LCD can't be 5 and it can't be 4. Sometimes the LCD sometimes is looking at you. So a little trick that I taught my college students is find the biggest number. So your biggest number is 40. Now, can 5 divide 40 evenly? The answer is yes. So you're like, okay, good. Can 4 divide 40 evenly? The answer is yes. So because the answer is yes, 40 is your LCD. And from here, we're going to now make equivalent fractions. So to change 5 into 40, I would have to multiply by 8. 1 times 8 is 8. Now 40, for this to remain 40, I would have to times by 1. 11 times 1 is 11. And to change 4 into 40, I would have to times by 10. So 1 times 10 is 10. And now, because the denominators are the same, you can now put them in order. So who would be the smallest one? So your smallest would be the 8/40, and then your 10/40, and then your 11/40. Now, your 8/40 was the 1/5, right? And then your 10/40 was your 1/4. And then 11/40 was 11/40. So 1/5 is less than 1/4, and then 1/4 is less than 11/40. Your answer is B. Now suppose they mix your fractions with your decimals. And I know some people might start running to the hills like, oh my God, especially people who don't like fractions. So they give you fractions and decimals and whole numbers and want you to put them in order from smallest to largest. Now, in this case, I would say if you have any fractions, convert them to decimals. It'll make your life easier. Now, I notice here that I have 2 and 3 over 4. So 2 is the whole number, and the 3 over 4 it will be your decimal portion because that's your fraction. So I'll put my decimal point. Now, everyone should know, because remember, your test is timed, so they're not going to give you weird out fractions. Everyone should know that 3 over 4 represents 0.75. Now, if you did not know that and they gave you 2 and 3 over 4, what you could do is change this from a mixed number to an improper fraction. So 2 times 4 is 8, plus 3 is 11 over 4. And then from there, you will divide this. So 4 is here, 11 is here, decimal point. Add a couple of zeros. I usually add 3. 4 goes into 11 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8. When I subtract, I get 3. Okay, here's your decimal point. Bring down the 0. 4 goes into 30 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. When I subtract, I get 2. Bring down the 0. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. And there you go, 2.75. But if you knew that 3 over 4 is 0.75, then 2 is your whole number, put your decimal point, and then your fraction portion comes after. 8 over 3, we have to change that. So it's 8 over 3. Again, I'm going to do my division. Here's my divisor. Here's my 8. And we're going to begin to divide. Now 3 goes into 8 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6. When I subtract, I'm going to get 2. Bring down the 0. 3 goes into 26 times. 6 times 3 is 18. When I subtract, I get 2. Bring down the 0. 3 goes into 20 again 6 times. 6 times 3 is 18, and when you subtract, you get the 2. So notice this is going to be 2 all the time. So the 8 over 3 is actually 2.6, and this is going to keep going 6, 6, 6. Okay, so we want to go from smallest to largest. So notice it's 2. The next number would be 2.75. We did the 8 over 3, and that was 2.66, and the 6 kept going. And then you have 2.6. Who would be the smallest? 2. Okay, notice everyone started with a 2. So this is your smallest number. So your smallest number is 2. All right, who is next? So you have 75, you have 0.66. Again, if you put them in the order, 2.75, 2.66, and then this was 2.60. So remember when I said that you line up the decimals and then you compared by place values. So if you notice here, these are all 2s. So this can't really tell you anything. So next we go to the next place value, and I notice that I see the 7 and then the 6 and the 6. Now this 7 would tell me that this would be my largest. So the 2.75 would be my largest. So when you could go like, okay, these two have the largest, no, and no. You have this. So notice these two 6s are the same. So we got to go to the next place value where you see some difference. So notice here, this is a 0 and this is 6. So this will be your next smallest. So here you would have the 2.6 followed by the 2.66, and then you have your 2.75. Now remember, your 2.66 was the 8 over 3. So you have your 2, your 2.6, your 8 over 3, okay, and then the 2 and 3/4. So your answer is C. And this is what you do if you have a mixture of decimals and fractions. I would suggest convert the fractions to decimals, and then it will be so much easier to order it. Now, here's another type of question you may see on the GED test. And it says, between which pair of decimals would 4/7 be placed on a number line? 4/7, again, take that fraction, change it to a decimal. So 4/7 means 4 divided by 7. Make your division. Here's 7, here's 4. Insert your decimal point, add a couple of zeros. I bring up my decimal point. 7 goes into 4 0 times, so it doesn't work. So the 4 comes together with the 0 and it's 40. So 7 goes into 40. That would be 5 times. 5 times 7 is 35. When you subtract, you get 5. Bring down the 0. 7 goes into 50. 7 times, and then 7 times 7 is 49. And when I subtract, I get 1. Now, this is going to keep going. So 4/7 is approximately 0.57. So where would you place 0.57? Would it be between 0.3 and 0.4? No. 0.4 and 0.5? No. What about 0.5 and 0.6? Yes. So 4/7 falls between 0.5 and 0.6. Here's another example of how they could word this question. It says 5 points are shown on a number line. So you have 5 points. Notice it starts at 0 and it ends at 1. And then they have J, K, L, M, N. And they want to know between which 2 points is 7/16 located. So again, 7/16 means 7 divided by 16, which means we got to set up our division. So here's 16. Here's 7, put the decimal point, add a couple of zeros. I usually go for 3. Bring up that decimal point. Now, we got to guess how many times 16 will go into 70. So guessing, I would say, let's try 5. So 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 3 is 8. So, okay, 5 is too big. It gives me 80. So let's go down 1, 4. 4 times 6 is 24. 4 times 1 is 4 plus 2 is 6. Okay, so it'll be a 4. And that gives me 64. When I subtract, I get 6. Okay, bring down that number. So 16 goes into 60. Well, it can't be 4 times. So it's like, okay, 16 times 3. 3 times 6 is 18. 3 times 1 is 3 and 1 is 4, so it's 48. So that's 3. We get 48. We subtract, borrow. 8 from 10 is 2. And this will be 1. And then we have to bring down the 0. But I'm going to stop here because I got 0.43. So I'm like, okay, 7/16 is approximately 0.43. which is between 0 and 1. So the first thing I'm going to do is find who's the middle. So if you count here, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So let's count backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this right here by L would be 0.5. So we want who would be in the middle. And since this is 0.43, it has to be somewhere around here because 0.43 has to be close to 0.5 because it's going to be 0.4. So the 2 points that 7/6 is between would be K and L. So my answer would be B. All right, last but not least, we have some other types of questions you may see. I'm trying to give you a variety of what you may see when it comes to ordering fractions and decimals. So I have here Jen is putting her wrenches away. She is missing a wrench with a size between 5/8 inch and 3/4 inch. Okay. And then they say which size wrench is missing. So I see here this is a half, this is 16, 9/16, 7/8. I have here the 5/8 and the 3/4. Now I notice that when I look at my answers, I see that some of them have a denominator of 16. And because that's the biggest number, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make everybody with a denominator of 16. Okay? So if I had to make this a denominator of 16, I would have to times by 8. So this will be 8/16. This is good because he has a 16, and this is good. But this one, to make it a 16, I would have to times by 2 at the bottom and 2 at the top. So then that's 14. Now the 5/8, to make that into a 16, let's put it up here. I would have to times by 2. So that's 10/16. And to make this 4 a 16, I would have to times by 4. And that will be 12/16. So I got 10/16, 12/16. Like, who would fall into the middle between 10 and 12? 11. So my answer is C, 11/16. This last problem says between 1/5 and 1/4 of the students in a class receive an A on a history test. Which decimal is between 1/5 and 1/4? So in this, notice all your answers are decimals. Nobody changed these decimals into fractions. So I'm going to change these fractions to decimals. So 1/5 means 1 divided by 5. And here we go. This is not too bad. So bring up my decimal point. 5 goes into 1 0 times. But then 5 goes into 10 2 times. And 2 times 5 is 10. When I subtract, I get 0. So 1/5 is actually 0.2. Now you should know what's 1/4 as a decimal. 1/4 as a decimal is 0.25. So I only needed to do the math for 1/5 because I may not have known it. But you should know that 1/5 is 0.2. So which decimal is between 0.2 and 0.25? Now 0.17 is less. 0.23 looks promising. Would that be between 0.2 and 0.25? Sure bet it would be. So B is your answer because 0.26 is too large and 0.32 is too large. So when it comes to ordering fractions and decimals, these are the types of questions you may see. Takeaways from this: if you have decimals and you have to order them, I would suggest, if you can't eyeball it, to line them up by their decimal point and then compare the place values. Now, if you have numbers in a place value that are the same, you're going to have to move to the next place value where you see a difference. If you have fractions and the denominators are the same, you just compare the numerators, like who is the smallest number, who is the biggest number. If the denominators are different, you're going to have to create equivalent fractions, which means you're going to have to find the LCD. And once they're equivalent fractions, like what I did here, you then can be able to compare your numerators. So you're going to be using your numerators to compare them. If they switch the books on you and give you fractions and your answers are decimals, I would suggest to convert those fractions to decimals and then compare or choose your answer. I hope this lesson has been helpful in the area of ordering fractions and decimals. If you like the content, please hit that like button, subscribe, share, and comment. I will always answer your questions. If there's something that I did here that you want me to focus more on or want me to do like a simple video, and it could be that you want me to do a video where I convert fractions to decimals, please let me know. However, this is what you're going to see in ordering fractions. Again, I hope it was helpful. Good luck in your GED exam.